Is it going to go to
All
comments
right.
now?
Oh, we are live now.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I know there's a few seconds delay. So as soon as you can see us, if you can do me a favor and you can do hashtag live if you're live, and you can do hashtag replay if you're seeing this after the fact and you are catching the replay. So we would love to see you here today. So yes, make sure that you're doing hashtag live if you're here live, hashtag replay if you're on the replay. And I am sharing this. Feel free to do that too. And I'll tell you why at the end, because you want to make sure that you're sharing this. Make sure to share it on public if you do. We've got some awesome things going on tonight. Like I said, I'm just getting this up real quick here. Hello. Happy Thursday. All right. Oh, Jeanette is in here. Hello, Jeanette. How are you today, my dear? And I'm going to be putting the comments up. She's hashtag live. Thank you, girl. Okay. So, yeah, we're just going to give people a second to find us. But, I'm really excited about tonight. We're talking about special education and special education learning. And we're doing that here on A Mom on a Mission, which is a Thursday night live. And, sorry. It's officially up now. Good. Okay. Officially, we're do a Thursday night live every week where I go and I find out issues that parents are dealing with. And for a little while, we're going to be doing the next couple of weeks on things like education, because, we've just been talking about it. And we got that coming up. Schools are opening. Well, whether they're distance or or going in, but schools are opening and things are starting out soon. And a lot of us have questions, and who better to ask than some lovely teachers? So, okay. And I see, Jeanette, you started asking some questions right away. I'll get to some of those too. First, I would go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Chrisma and I am a fourth grade special education teacher. This is going to be my 14th year. So I've had some gen ed and special ed experience, and it's not for the fond of heart, but special ed really you have to have a heart for if you're going to stay in it for a long time.
And you have children yourself too.
Yes, I have two children. I have two adopted children, and the second one is almost fully adopted. So I myself have the blessing of having children that have different needs, maybe not just needs at school, but the socio-emotional piece has really been helpful for me, having that teacher perspective. But then sometimes it's hard to change my role from teacher to mom, so I have to watch that. But yes, it's been very helpful to have those skills for when I come home, and we're transitioning them from like this one now from foster care to our home, making sure that we have things in place, making sure that we're doing everything we need socially, emotionally for them, because it's a lot to be an adopted child.
Oh yeah. And then, and that's a lot on you too, having, going through the adoption process while being a teacher, because I know both of those things are extremely demanding. So that's amazing. And I see there's other people on here too. Sorry, we've got Bill, looks like you joined, and Brian and Nancy. Oh, I had Nancy. She says, Chrisma, you're the best. And Brian says he's with Jeanette. So Brian and Jeanette are in Canada then. That's pretty awesome. We've got some people internationally. So I want to start out, we always start out, let's do your positives. We like to start out by celebrating our Thursday, because I'm so happy that you guys are here. And I think it's good to start out any conversation with just like reflecting on the good things that you've had. So Chrisma, what's your positive for today?
My positive for today, I finished making all of my student bead racks, and my classroom is organized and like mostly all set. So that is a huge positive.
Guys, if you have positives, go ahead and put them in the comments. This is a place to celebrate. Let's all do it. So if you got a positive for today, feel free to share it with us. I would say my positive today is, what did I do? Oh, I was able to set up some more COVID care kit giveaway stuff that we're doing for an organization in town. And it's been taking me a little while because I've been getting behind on stuff. And I was finally able to get it all done. And it is off my plate because it has kind of just been staring me in the corner like, finish me. And I haven't done it. So I'm super excited about that. But yeah, so it's just, thank you. I love it when we hear positives. I think it's good to just reflect on that. But I know that we have a lot of questions and a lot of things going on. And I see Jeanette. Wow, I'm going to have like a whole segment just on Jeanette's questions here. I don't know if you can see those in there too, Chrisma.
I can see them. Yeah.
But I want to go over, if it's okay, I want to go over your 3 points that we were kind of talking about first, and then see if they cover some of what if Jeanette was asking, and then we'll go in there. And if you have questions as well, like Jeanette, go ahead and put them in the comments section, and we will get to those too. We'll go through like your general ones, and then we'll go to Q&A at the end, because that's what it's about, getting questions and getting answers for them. So
sure.
Yeah. So the first thing that you were talking about is there were 3 things that we really wanted to cover tonight. And the first one, which you said you've been getting a lot of more experience with, was juggling school and home.
Yes, juggling school and home. My biggest thing with juggling school and home is every family looks so different. And so what works for one family is not going to work for another family. Sometimes parents will say, well, just tell me what to do. If you tell me what to do, then I'll be able to, do it and I won't have any issues. Well, no, that doesn't work, because what works for my family, my son's list of things he has to do when he gets up and when he goes to bed, that works for him, but that might not work for somebody else. Somebody else, another student, a child might need a visual schedule where it shows them what to do. You have to have family time, especially if you're a working mom. You got to come home and you have to throw your bag in the closet and get it away for a while, because there's days where I will come home and I'll take my school bag and I literally set it down, and it's right there by my dinner table, because that's kind of where I plop stuff, right there by the floor. And then all night I'm thinking about it and I'm looking at it and I'm wondering okay, I could be doing that instead of sitting here on the floor with my daughter while she's playing or whatever. But what I need to do is I need to take that hat off of working and put the hat on of being a mom. And so, careful. So, anyway, so there has to be a healthy balance. The other thing too, some parents will ask us about is homework. Hold on one second. No, I am in the middle of a meeting. Please go out there if you're going to do that.
We have kids. We're moms, so this happens. It's good.
Sorry. Dylan, go out there. So, but when it comes to that time, and sorry, now I'm all out of whack. Dylan, move away from that. I'm not doing anything. I'm giving him the finger to move.
The mom, yes,
go. So anyway, but juggling, there has to be some separation. You have to come home, and it's something that I started trying to do, especially this last year when we transitioned the little one into our home, is just having, when school is done, we go do something fun together. It might be 15 minutes of playing outside on the trampoline, or it might be going for a bike ride or something, but we have to take and do something positive that's going to fill up our bucket so that then we can get through the evening. Schoolwork, some parents will say do schoolwork when it is, time for right away when they get home. Some parents will say, well, I just let my kids come home and take a snack and then they do their homework. Really, honestly, you have to do what works best for you. With this whole distance learning thing, some school districts are implementing this extra hour of learning at home.
Yep, we were talking about that. You and I were.
Yes. And some recommendations with that, would be fun applications, if you wanted to take and have them do Prodigy Math. That's a really fun math site. They build an avatar and they do math at the same time. Or abca.com. Maybe they could do some flashcards, or maybe they could do some reading, but it is not supposed to be an hour of a parent teaching. That is not what it's supposed to be. So if someone tells you that you need to sit there with them for that hour, that's not what it's intended to be. That kind of terrified me at first. I don't know about you, Jessie, but I thought, oh my gosh, another hour when I get home.
I did. I have 4 kids that are in school right now. And so our school is doing reduced hours. They get out early and then they have an hour of learning time at home. And I'll admit a big part of me was like, if I have to individually help each child for an hour to make sure that they get it done, and maybe the older one probably wouldn't need my help, but that's still, 4 hours of extra work. So we get out at 2, we go get the baby, we get home by 3 with a snack, and then we jump in. That's, till 6, 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night that we're still doing homework for. That's insane. But so saying that was awesome, because I know when I heard you talking about that earlier, that kind of eased my worry and my concern. And like you were saying, your school, they're starting late. So your plan is to do it in the morning. So then that way, when you're done with school, they're done with school.
Right. And if that's something that parents can do, I know it's a lot on the parents' part to get them up earlier, especially if you want to sleep in. But really, my hope is that my son will do his hour of work in the morning when I'm doing my planning time at school, and then we'll do school, and then we'll come home, and then he will just be done, and we won't have to take and do more extended learning at home. And I think that's going to just be, different schedules are different. Some parents work different shifts, so some parents may need to do it later because maybe they work until 6 o'clock, and then maybe at dinner time your son or your daughter can read to you some. That's a great activity too. If you're in the middle of doing something and you need to have them working at the same time, have them read to you, have them do some math problems and tell you how they did them. All of those little things can also be included in that hour of learning time. It doesn't have to be paper pencil time.
Yeah. I used to have them sit when I would get home, if they had things that they still had to complete, or on times where we do reading while I'm making dinner, they sit at the dinner table and then they do that, so that I'm kind of already stuck in that room and I'm stuck in there with them. So it's a little bit easier for me to, like stop at the stove for a second and help them out. So, or I can keep cooking while they ask me their questions, or they can just read to me and I know they're actually reading. And I'm standing in the same room as them, because otherwise, multitask. We're moms. We're pretty good at that.
Yes. But that can all be included. It doesn't have to be like a segregated hour of, learning. I mean, all those things you're teaching them. I mean, even cooking meals and doubling batches of cookie dough, measuring, using, can you please stop? I really need for you to go, because I'm having a hard time focusing. No, really, I am. I'm being totally honest with you. Okay. So even measuring, when it's time to, put batches of cookies in, or, even the other day I taught my son and his cousin he taught the cousin how to make ramen noodles, and we only used 1 pan instead of 2, and they doubled the batch. Those are all learning times.
Yeah. See, and that's like taking the kids shopping and having them do the list and stuff. Well, I wanted to go on to the next one, because I think that that helps too, which is communication with your teachers, which is something that we were talking about too, is because, it's, if you have these questions and you're wondering, what do they mean by this? What do they expect of me?
Right. Yeah. So as far as communication with your teacher, one of the biggest things that you can do to make sure that your son or daughter has the best education possible is to be talking to us teachers. Sometimes kids will come home and they tell you their perspective of something, and sometimes that maybe isn't always what happens. As most parents, I know myself, sometimes I'll hear the perspective he wants me to hear, but that's not really what happened. Jesse, you and I were just talking about that, about always believe in the teacher, right? But communicating with your parents or with your teachers. So if something doesn't go well, if they have a rough morning, if the parents are split and they're coming from one household to another, and there's a transition and they're having a rough time with it, you want to make sure you let us know those things. That way we can be ready for the day. Sometimes just knowing that there's been a crisis at home helps us prepare them for their school day, because then we can say, man, I'm really sorry that happened. Do you want to talk about it, or do you need to go take an extra break? And calling and letting us know. Or when we call you, answering the phone. Sometimes parents don't answer the phone because they don't want us to take and tell them bad news, but sometimes I want to tell parents good news. Sometimes we call to make positive phone calls.
Yeah.
And if no one answers, I can't give any positive phone calls. And then when they finally do hear something, they hear from the principal or, maybe not a person they want to hear from,
Yeah.
and then we're calling their emergency contacts and then they feel like it's terrible. So
Yep.
really, if they could take and communicate that way. And then of course there's like Class Dojo, there's the Remind app.
Yep.
So whatever your teacher has, if you can just touch base with them even just once a week, would be fantastic, from a teacher's perspective, just to have that parent communication, because otherwise we feel lost. Like we're
Yeah.
trying to juggle it all at school, and sometimes there's so many kids we can't always focus on just one, or we have the crisis, we solve the crisis, and we remind ourselves we need to call, but then we get busy and we forget. So forgive us, we're human, but that's the reality of it. So sometimes we need for you to take and be reciprocal with that communication.
What's the best way to communicate? Like, is it, because I tried, I mean, I am really bad at like making sure that I sift through my emails, because I have like 6 emails, but I try to email because I figure that's the easiest. But do you prefer call? Do you prefer they come in? Because sometimes I feel like when I come in, I'm like, oh no, I'm crouching in on their time, or they're trying to organize all these kids and there's 6 parents lined up to talk to them too. So what's
Yeah.
the best way?
So parents coming in is actually a huge distraction. As much as we would love to see the parents, like at the end of the day, sometimes parents will come back to our room. That's
Yeah.
a great idea in theory. But if one parent comes, then 2 parents and 3 parents, and then before you know it, we're there an hour or so after school just trying to answer all the questions of those parents and get the parents gone. So really the easiest way, if your teacher uses like Class Dojo or the Remind app, that's the easiest way, aside from texting. I like to give out my cell phone number. And honestly, it's so nice because I have to have my phone on me in case of an emergency all the time anyways. So if I just have a quick text and it'll say like, John's mom or something, but they can just text me a real quick message, or if we need to set up, an IEP meeting, or if we're setting up conferences or something, sometimes it's just easier for parents too to just send a quick text than to have a big long conversation.
Yeah.
So that, I would say, would be the best. If you have a long message, you can email, but really sometimes it's hard to read through emails. And sometimes I don't know if the parent is angry. Should I respond? Are they angry or are they happy about this? Words sometimes you can misunderstand.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I wanted to go over, because we're talking about special education learning, and special education students. So one of the things that, you wanted to talk about was routine.
Yes, routine is huge, 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 huge. And now we have like a week and a half or so. Some people have 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks before school starts. It is the best time. It takes like 21 days for us to get into a routine and to stick to that routine. So even for my own son, he wants to stay up later. All of his neighbor friends are outside playing still, but his school bedtime is 8 o'clock. And I have a list, and it's nothing fancy. It's just paper with marker. I just use different colors. And we have a bedtime routine, and then we have a morning routine, and it's just numbered 1 through 5, and then it tells him what he needs to do. Now, the incentive is if he gets through his routine faster, then he can play for longer time. But if it takes him the full time, we plan right now on 15 minutes for bedtime, shower and get, brushing his teeth and making sure he gets his pajama, like all that kind of thing, taking his medicine, whatnot. But if he goes faster, then he has more time. So he's been saying, well, Mom, it only took me 10 minutes to do it. Like the other day, it only took him 10 minutes. So now he's like, now I don't have to get ready for bed until 7:50. And so we've been trying to kind of, give him that motivation, oh, if you get done faster, then you can take and stay up a little bit later. So, but routine, I mean, having them start the day the same way, having them do the same things every day, like brushing their teeth, because honestly, with this quarantine that we've had, a lot of students, believe it or not, when I would do Zoom conferences, a lot of students, even though they weren't that close to the camera, it was evident with
Yeah.
red and blue juice and pop, like their teeth, so brushing their teeth. We talked about taking showers because that's really important. So if you build that into their routine and they just know that it's coming, there's less arguing. It's written down on the wall. It's the same thing. Mom didn't change it overnight or anything. So I feel like if you have a routine, and those same things are followed. There's just there's less gray matter for them to be confused about, and they just do what they need to do, get it done, and that's how life is. We have to do what we have to do.
See, and I love routines. I want to say hi. Bethany just came in and Kathleen just came in. Curtis was in a little bit ago. So hello, guys. And I love routines. Even if it's just in us, like you don't write it down, just get them in the habit and in the routine of, hey, by this time, we're probably going to start winding down. By this time, you need to be bathed. By this, between this time and this time, like we have like a range of when they're going to go to bed, like between 8 and 8:30 for the little ones, between 8:30 and 9 for the older ones, depending on when those ones go to bed. Because it might, some days it takes a little bit longer, and it's not to stress on the points of get it done right then, but to get them in, and then in the mode probably of they're going to have routines for school if they're going back. And honestly, even if they're doing the distance learning, they're probably going to have routines that the teachers are going to set up to try and keep some of that normalcy, My biggest hack forever and always is use Alexa or Google Home. I'm telling you, like I plug in our routine into Alexa's app, and then she announces through the whole day what they're supposed to be doing. So like they wake up at 8:30 a.m. They have breakfast and make their beds. They have outside time for a half hour. Then they do, like, they are only allowed to have electronics until this time. Then they have to go outside. So all of those things are all on there, like lunch, snack time, everything is in there. So I don't have to remember it, and they don't argue with Alexa.
Right. Exactly.
But I wanted to go over, because you had, you've talked about some of them already too, but there were resources that you wanted to mention. And there was 2 that we had talked about that I was really excited about. And that was the zones of regulation was something you were talking about.
Yep. With zones of regulation, basically, I mean, to put it in a nutshell, it's kind of it's like a system that you can use. It's color coded, and so the students can identify which zone they're in. So for instance, red, if you think about the movie Inside Out, in the zone red would be like you're mad, you're frustrated, you're angry, you want to hit something or whatever. And there's charts that you can actually get. You can color code even for at home. So as a teacher, we start off the day, not everybody, but some teachers will start off the day with what zone are we in? And then you can do a whole class where, you say, okay, who's in the blue zone today, or who's in the yellow zone, or green zone would be you're ready to learn, you're ready, you're situated, you are feeling confident for the day. So then the teacher can kind of get an idea of where the kids are at and which kids she needs to take and talk to during the day. And at home, you can use that verbiage and say, oh, I see that you look like you might be in the red zone. Can you tell me what zone you're in? And then you can get them to identify which zone they're in. They don't have to tell you exactly how they're feeling. That's okay. But then at least they can start verbalizing what zone they're in. Then you can maybe talk more about what feeling they're feeling when they're upset to work through. And then you can talk about strategies. Oh, you're in the red zone. What can we do to get you to the blue zone? Or what can we do to get you to the yellow zone? So you can use that as a way to kind of start that conversation.
And some of them use like thermometers, because that's something I've used with my son. And he struggles with like emotional stability and things like that. So we'll use a thermometer and we'll be like, where are you at right now? And, if he's cool, he's good. If he's hot, he's pretty much already struggling and having outbursts at that point in the day. So it's just easy and good to be able to track them, because we all have days where, we were saying that before, like I was talking to you about that before, like, we all have days where you will just, somebody will say something to you that they could say something any other day and you'd be fine with it. And then it's the one day that they say it and you're like, that's it, I've had enough. And then it was because you were already in that mode of being affected by what was going on around you. And, we as adults have the ability to process that and know, okay, I was already in a mood, or I was already having this issue. But kids don't.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like probably kids that have special needs or require extra help, they have trouble identifying those emotions even more and being able to get help from them.
Right. Well, and their vocabulary is limited often. So it's not maybe that they don't necessarily, that they can't, they don't want to tell, they want to tell us, and they're using their behavior as a form of communication to tell us something's wrong. But then the vocabulary to like say and identify what it is, that's a part we really have to practice teaching, that socio emotional skill of how to, what different kind of feelings and, things that we have going on in our body.
Okay. And so that was like, you were talking about the life space interview, which I thought was super cool. I've actually shared it with a couple of people since you told me about that. Do you want to explain it a little bit?
Sure. So the life space interview, I wish I would have brought an example from school. I even had one yesterday. I didn't even think about it.
Well, and I have one actually I'll put in the comments because I did grab some resources once we were going over them. I was like, that is super cool. I got to find some. So I'll be putting these in the comments as well, some of the resources. So for the zones of regulation, and then now for this too, I'm putting in there too. So make sure that you guys check out the comments. Go ahead.
Perfect. So the life space interview is basically it's kind of like a Velcro book, basically, and you can print off different pictures. You can choose the ones you want to use. Some students prefer, like for instance, some students are okay with the black and white. Other students would want the color. Some students might need different descriptive pictures, but there's a whole bunch of them that you can use, and you put them on little pieces of Velcro. And it's all within a folder, kind of like a book. So you open it up, and then the Velcro pieces are available, and they're color coded. At least the ones we have are, so that then the kids know which. Okay, so the first question is what happened. Or how am I feeling? Whatever the question might be, however a teacher has it laid out, and then they pick that Velcro piece and they put it on to that question. And then when they're done with that, then the teacher comes and the teacher conferences with them, and they talk about, okay, so this is what happened. Here's how you were feeling. What are some things we can do the next time you feel this way? And then you come up with strategies. So then you can see that improvement when they're using the strategies instead of using the behavior to communicate what's going on. And then at the bottom, there's we have 3 on ours that, are you ready to, do you feel, is your body safe? Are you going to, follow the directions? Are you ready to learn? And so we want them to have 3 yeses, but there's also no's. So if they still say, well, their body doesn't feel safe, then we can use that as a motivator to say, okay, so they're saying their body isn't safe. What can we do to get their body safe? Maybe they need to walk. Maybe they need to go get a drink. Sometimes those are the easiest of things for them to do. They just go get a drink. It's called relocation therapy. It's a really fancy word for just getting them to move. When in doubt, use relocation therapy, because half the time you get a kid up and you go for a walk somewhere, even if it's just like up, 5 doors down or something, usually the receptors in their brain and just their body moving and getting a little bit of the sensory inputs out and in will make a huge difference. And then that might be the end of it. Maybe they just needed a break. But it is a really good resource. And then when you're done, you take the Velcro off, and then it's ready for the next kid to use.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I did put that resource in there too. And so people know too, I do have these lists of resources and more that Chrisma has shared too. And you can either email me for those. I've been trying to put them in my group, the Work Like a Mother group. And then if you do sign up for my email list, usually after the end of these replays or at the end of these lives, I will send the replay over, and I will have like all of this typed out with all the links. And probably I have some PDFs and things too that are there that you can do like cut and paste at home as well. So yeah, so if you are interested in any of this information and you want to take it further, yes, please contact me, because I think this stuff is great. I'm loving these resources that you are giving, Chrisma. I think it's great. I told her that's like your teacher's superpower, is always having like really awesome resources and PDFs and like cutouts and things too. So that's awesome. Hi, Melissa. She just jumped on too. So I wanted to go over some questions that we got, because I think we've gone over like the main things that you and I were discussing going over. So if you're okay with that, you want to start the questions?
Sure.
Okay, and everybody, if you are on and you have questions, go ahead and feel free to put them in there. Thank you, Bethany. Hi, Melissa. And then I will start probably, I had some people put some in, but we'll start with Jeanette's because she's live on here too. So I'm going to go up to the top and read hers out really quick. She had quite a few, so it might go in stages. But she said, my daughter wants to open a school for kids with special needs. Oh, okay, awesome. She has a few questions for tonight. What she wanted to know, do you have to have special education to be a special education teacher beyond just being a teacher?
Yes. So let me tell you, in the state of Michigan, I started teaching in 2007, and my degree within 1 year, they changed their standards here in Michigan from needing just a special ed degree to needing to be highly qualified. So within 1 year of getting my bachelor's, I immediately had to start my master's degree. So if your daughter is looking to go into special education, make sure that you double check and read the language that the law has written for what needs to be as far as classes go. I'm on year 14, so I'm a little out there. Like, I don't want to say I'm old or something, but really, like, it changes. You know what I mean? It changes every year. So I went to Grand Valley. I would highly recommend Grand Valley's education program. A lot of districts are very school districts like students that have gone to Grand Valley simply for the fact that it's just how they do what they do, and you can get through. I got through school in 5 years instead of 6. But you got to kick your butt to do it. And there's a lot of extra things you can do, doing some classes in the summer, doing year round for a couple of years. But yes, there is extra classes that need to be taken besides the just teaching degree. And I would also recommend her to take a look at which area she wants to go into. I did the biggest balloon, which was like kind of if you think about a rainbow, or not a rainbow, an umbrella, and underneath the umbrella would be all of the areas that, you could go into. I did emotionally impaired and cognitively impaired. And those are the two biggest categories we had back then. So we're talking 14 years ago. Again, I'm not that old, but 14 years ago, those were the two biggest categories that we had. So now, if you notice the trend, ASD, the autism spectrum,
Yes.
disorder, that is coming into play a lot. So if genuinely a special education career is what someone's looking into, I might recommend that. But you want to get a degree that's going to give you several things. So I did emotionally impaired and cognitively impaired, but then along with that special ed degree, I could also teach gen ed K-5. So I had a couple of areas. So let's say she gets out of college and she can't find a job right away, which won't happen because, by the way, a lot of people didn't go into special ed because of how difficult and confusing it is. So I will say that we are at a shortage. Some districts just simply can't find enough people. But then at least she'd be able to do special ed or gen ed. So make sure she looks at a couple of different areas so she could do both. I've done both. I love gen ed. I thought I would hate it. I loved it. But then, God broke my heart to do the special ed part. Yeah. After several years of being out of it. So I was able to go back into it, and use where I felt like God needed me to be. So make sure that she gives herself some room to do a couple of things. Don't pigeonhole to, I only want to work with emotionally impaired students. Make sure that she has a couple of areas.
Okay. I actually, and what I'll do is I'll probably go back and forth because I had somebody that had asked a question prior. I see somebody else asked a question, and then we'll go back to Jeanette too. Okay. I did have somebody that had asked, as a parent, can you do special education teaching from home? Because I know some parents with all of this going on have wanted to consider homeschooling their special education child, but they've been told that they can't for some reason, or that you need a special certification as a parent. Like, what is the truth on that? Or what's your recommendation for moms that are considering homeschooling versus everything else going on right now?
Well, so there's no perfect answer. There's not a right and a wrong because every family is different. So I want to preface with that. What I will say is I have some students on my caseload this year who parents are requesting homeschooling. as of right now, my district hasn't given me any specifics as far as what that's going to look like for what my interaction with that student is going to be. That student may be on a different caseload of a teacher that doesn't have as many students, and the special ed student is going to have to touch base with that teacher. In the spring, I had regular Zoom meetings with my students twice a week, and we would take and work on the remediation of the work that they were doing, or if there was something they were struggling with or confused about. I would say as a parent, like a special ed teacher and a parent, both of those things, if you in your heart know you want to homeschool your child, there is no reason for you to not homeschool them. If you feel like that's the best thing for you to do, your heart's going to tell you what the right thing to do is. But understand, if you homeschool your child, that they're not necessarily going to have the same resources available as if they were going to physical school. If there's resources that you need, you could contact your school, you could contact whatever caseworker your son or daughter has. Our district is not saying that special ed students can't do virtual. So I think that would be illegal technically.
Yeah.
But don't quote me on that. But I think that that would be illegal because we can't tell you what to do with your child.
Yeah.
But homeschooling your own kids is hard. It's really hard. I did the virtual learning with my students, and then I also had my, who then was an 8-year-old home with me, and then I had my 2-year-old because everything was closed. And there were days I could have just poked my eyeballs with forks because I just did not, I couldn't manage it all. So there will come a time where, you know, maybe if that's something that you're a little bit nervous of, you know, there are other homeschooling groups that get together and they do different things. And so if that is an avenue you want to take, I wouldn't just sit yourself at home with your son or your daughter at the table every day for 6 hours. That's not what homeschooling is going to look like. It shouldn't look like that, because it goes quicker when you're teaching them things. But I would encourage you to get involved with other people. I would encourage you to take an you know, for sure, look at different resources, get a schedule, do the same schedule every day. But no one can tell you what you should or shouldn't do because we don't know what's best for your family. My kid needs to go back to school. I need to go back to work. I being home has caused like different kinds of anxiety for me.
Yeah.
And my son is very social. He misses his friends. You know, he's eating out of boredom. He, you know, wants to do nothing but lay around all day some days. And so again, it really is up to whatever you and your family decide is going to be best. So I can't say it's better one way or the other because for some kids it would be terrible for them to stay home. But then I have other kids on my head that I can think of, like from my caseload last year, who would have been phenomenal with virtual learning with accommodations. And there were kids that I brought tubs of accommodated material and, you know, manipulatives and stuff, and I just brought that and we left it on their porch, and then they used that to help with their learning virtually. So it's not that it can't be done. It's just a matter of you communicating what you need, and being open with the teacher and the school about what we can do to help you.
Okay. Well,
Does that answer that?
I think so. Yeah, it did. It definitely did. And I think it ties into the next question that I wanted to go over from Bethany that said, what is your biggest concern going into the fall school year from a teacher's perspective and a parent perspective, since you're both?
So,
question, Bethany.
Yes. Bethany is one of my very good friends. Yes. Well, and I've talked to her about this, but I think if I just go from a teacher's perspective, my biggest concern going into this fall, is, first of all, I'm a hugger, and kids come to my room. Hey, Miss Sellers. Hey, Miss Sellers. Some of them that I would give hugs to, that was their only positive. You know, they didn't get that at home. They didn't get the affection and appropriate love that they should be getting. So that's going to be hard for me. The masks, thankfully in our district, once the students get to my classroom, they can take off their mask because they're going to be in cohort groups. So I should be good with that. But I think keeping masks, especially on students who have sensory difficulty, getting them to cover their face all day is going to be a serious challenge. I think that's going to be a struggle. The schedule, I don't really love the idea of students coming in later and then us doing more work at home. I think that I'm worried that a lot of students won't do that parents won't know what to do, or they're working 2 jobs and they're not going to be able to take and be home and help their kid for that extra hour of school. I'm concerned about the social part as a teacher. With recess, we'd have all of our 6 sections of fourth grade out on recess at the same time, and they all got to know each other. And this year, they're going to be with their class all day, every day, and their teacher during lunch, during specials, during recess. And so there's not going to be that kind of mingling that
Yeah.
I would like. But in the other regard, in a positive manner, they will be, that'll be like a family. That
Yeah.
classroom will be like a family unit. So I think there are some positives in there. As a parent, I don't know that I love the idea of going to school for a week and then all of a sudden we're on virtual learning. And
Yeah.
then what am I going to do? Now I've got to figure out daycare. I've got to take and figure out, okay, am I going to be able to work? And I'm a teacher. How am I going to work as a teacher when I need to be doing virtual, but I have a fourth grader that's going to be home with me?
Yep.
So, there that's a challenge. I worry about that. Are we going to go to school for a week and then be shut down for 2 weeks and then go back to school and come back and go back and come back and go back? That's not healthy for kids either. And school is a place where a lot of our students get food. A lot of our students get that, the physical love and touch and affection that they don't necessarily get at home. So as a parent, I think that it would be really good to get back on that routine and just have them going every day. They know what's going to come. They know what's going to happen. Get them back with their friends. I worry about kids getting sick though too. I worry about myself getting sick. I worry about myself bringing it home to my family. I'm not just exposed to one class of kids. Since I teach special ed, I have 3 classes. Usually I have 6, but I only have 3. So I'm going to be exposed to 75 kids a day.
Yeah.
And so that increases my risk of getting sick. If I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get sick. My belief is, Christ's going to take me. God knows when my time is. So if I'm going to die at school, I'm going to die at school. If I'm going, whatever the case is. But
Yeah.
I don't want to bring it home and get my family sick. And the other thing is sick days. Like as a parent, I don't know. My daughter had a runny nose and she had a runny nose. She had a mild fever, 99, and she had she coughed one time, and I had to come get her, and she was off of daycare for 3 days.
Well, and just on top of regular sick day stuff, like my kids got impetigo. So my son was out of daycare for a week because it's very contagious and I wasn't allowed to bring him. So for a whole week, I had to figure out what to do. That's a week worth of sick time. And then on top of whenever he gets those little sniffles or those little things that normally I would have been able to send him because it's probably just teething or whatever. Now you have to look into it and be like, is it just teething? Is it just this? So I totally get that. And Kathleen, she said on here, she has a friend who put a mask on for the first time and had a real meltdown. So I think that is a little comforting to hear that, at least in your classroom. And I don't know if that's just with like the special education classes, because I know for the younger kids in our school, like the elementary, the kids are required to wear them in the common areas, but once they get into the classroom, I believe they can take them off. The middle school, however, I believe has to have them on at all times. I think it's because it's a different class setup. Plus with the older kids, you should be able to say, hey, don't lick that kid. Don't stick that pencil in your mouth. So, you know what I mean? And so there's there's better things that you can do. So I like what you're saying here is, everybody's going to do their own things. They're going to choose their own things, and it's finding out what's best for you. And I think that's really great.
Yeah. And some districts are doing what you just said, that where you can go in the room and you can take off your mask as long as you're with your same cohort. Other districts are expecting them to wear them all day.
Yeah.
So it really is going to depend. Us teachers will be wearing them all day, but then again, I get concerned about that too, because when you don't have, when they can't see your face and your expression, that's a lot of our communication. So, but it's not just special ed kids. It's going to be, everybody is going to
have that issue. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to go back. How's everybody doing? How you doing, Chrisma? Thank you. You're being a great sport. Like everybody's just everybody just came in with a lot of questions. I knew that this was something that I have had people that have asked about this stuff. And one of we'll go back to one of Jeanette's, and then I'll go to the one that somebody had asked me and forwarded to me beforehand. But I want to bring up this one. I really liked it. She said, when you go on a field trip, what tricks do you have to manage the kids? And I think this would also work for if your parents going on trips, or you're going to the grocery store, or you're going to things, because I imagine the same techniques could be used for all of them. That's a really good question.
Yeah, honestly, so this sounds really silly, but we always bring a list of all the kids we have, and you know how many kids you have, and you count. We count them constantly. So you're counting to make sure that you have, 25 kids or 26 kids. We also line them up alphabetically. That helps too, just so that, I mean, and you memorize. You like after so many times of writing their names and writing their numbers, you memorize their names and their numbers, and so you just know what they are. Bring in a backpack with any of your health stuff like band-aids and tissues, or if there's things that they need, if you bring a backpack with all of that stuff. I encourage groups, buddies, so a kid will check for another kid if they're if you're ready to go and you say, does everyone have their buddy, and someone doesn't have their buddy, then it's going to be easy to figure out who doesn't have their person. Or
Yep.
groups too. Groups would also be helpful too. And, I think as we get farther in education, we love to have parents come on field trips, but at the same time, it does add a whole different layer of expectation because they act very different around their parents than they do around the teachers. So some teachers, will limit their number of parents, or some teachers are just not necessarily bringing parents if the field trip allows us not to.
Okay. So is there any techniques that you find are best for, like, when you go out, to make sure that kids stay calm, or to make sure like that there's that level of control?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I guess you kind of have to feel out the group of kids. For instance, one of the things on the bus that every year that we had done when I taught Jen at fourth grade was the quietest bus all got dum dum suckers.
Awesome.
So, like we had an incentive that way. We also have like cardinal cards that we give out for if they get 4 cardinal cards, then they get a free pencil. But as far as keeping them calm, it's really going over those expectations at the beginning and talking about things like, okay, when you walk into a building, how do you walk into the building? Or when we're at the museum, what are you supposed to touch and what are you not supposed to touch? Things that we don't think we maybe need to say and repeat and explain to our kids, we need to, because especially kids who have been through trauma, their brain isn't processing the information the way that someone who hasn't been through trauma does.
Yeah.
So we have to explain it to them maybe multiple times and let them know, and just keep letting them know and refresh their memory, even if it's just a few quick things. If you know that they struggle with touching stuff at the museum,
Yeah.
you remind them, or maybe you give them something to, fidget and hold on to while they're at the
Yeah.
museum so they're not touching other stuff.
That's a
you know.
great idea.
So yeah, because then they'll just be fidgeting with what you give them.
Yeah.
So
That's a great idea. I love that one. Like, that was a really good idea. And it's so simple. I think that's why those fidget spinners were so popular, but then they ended up being more of a distraction than they were,
yes.
like a deterrent. So
Yes.
I think those were a good thought and theory,
Yes. Yes.
So I have a question. Pet peeves, teacher pet peeves. What's the biggest pet peeve for a parent? Like, if you could tell a parent, please don't do this, what would you like to say for spout? Like, and you can make that for general education or special education. What, like, just please don't do this, please, or do this instead, please, because we like to give people solutions.
Yes. So I think one of my biggest, the biggest pet peeve is helicopter parents. And a helicopter parent is a parent that is like over their kid all the time.
Yeah.
And they don't ever let their child learn that they're responsible for themselves.
Yep.
And so they always want to excuse their behavior, or they always want to say, well, that kid did this. Or, they ask their son or daughter what happened at home, and then they give them a whole different story.
Yep.
Helicopter parents are hard. They're hard. They text you or call you 4 or 5 or 6 times a day. They have questions that they could easily find answers to on the website, but they want that attention. They're trying to get that attention. The other thing I was talking about earlier, parents who come at the end of the day and want to talk to a teacher after they have been teaching all day, and then they have meetings. I don't want to say it's a pet peeve, but it's hard. You don't have enough time to give them your undivided attention. And so you're trying respectfully to answer their question and be patient about it. But a lot of days after school, like special ed teachers, we've got IEP meetings constantly.
Wow.
We've got special ed department meetings. We have gen ed grade level meetings because we have grade levels. And then you have your staff meeting. So if you need help, if you can say or call and set up a specific time, that's much better than just popping in after school. Don't walk your kid to class. If they're in second grade or third grade or fourth grade or fifth grade,
Yeah.
they do not need to be walked. Their little legs work. God gave them legs. They should use them. They
Our
need to walk themselves.
Yeah, our school, you can help them when they're in preschool or kindergarten. If they're a new child, you can help them. But then after that, you're not allowed in the halls with them already. So, and I'm sure with COVID now, that's going to be even more strict. I mean, I know there's daycares and things that were, you meet them at the entrance and then they bring the kid to you. So I'm sure they'll have something like that too. I can't imagine that they'll allow even parents in some of the schools now.
Yeah, it's only under like emergency situations that we're allowing parents to come in. But we've had, sometimes during the, like on birthdays, parents want to come in and bring balloons. That's great that you want to do that, but do that at the end of the school day. Be waiting in your car with the balloon sticking out of your car, and the kid will be so excited. If you do it in the middle of the day, now they're focused on getting home to celebrate their birthday. All the other kids are staring at those balloons. It's such a distraction.
Yeah. I had somebody actually, when you said IEP, they had messaged me a question and I almost forgot to answer it. And I thought it was a good one. If you have a concern about whether your child's IEP is being followed, or you have confusion about that, what is the best route to go? Because I have a friend that was having that issue and she had asked about it.
So the very first thing, and in special ed, we're a world of documentation. We document everything, down to I had to document what kids come to me for what hours. So anyway, so the first thing I would say, if you're worried about whether the IEP is being followed, is I would say to the principal or to the special ed teacher, whichever you're feeling more comfortable. I mean, I go to the teacher first, just because maybe she or he can answer your question first. Is I would say, what accommodations is my son or daughter getting? Which ones are they using? Can I see the documentation that those are actually being given? The other thing you can look at is how many minutes. On the IEP paperwork, you should get a copy of that after the IEP. Usually we send it in the mail to make sure that parents receive it. But on there, it gives a specific range of minutes that a student should be in the special ed class every single week. So if you compare the times that they're with the special ed teacher to the times on that IEP, it needs to be in that window, in that range. That's why we have a range. And if you say that you want to see that their accommodations are being met, then me as a special ed teacher, like in my classroom right now for my students from last year, I have all their accommodation sheets from their gen ed teacher and from me every single month. And we would just note which accommodations we used. If the student refused it or didn't use it, then I would just write student didn't use, refused. And so the parents can come and they could see that. I could make them a copy of that and say, here's the accommodations that we're giving your child. Here's what they're using. Here's what they're not using.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. I thank you very much, because I know that she wasn't the first person I had heard that from, but I knew that was something. And she's just like, I don't know what to do. So getting a straight answer like that is awesome. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to do another one of Jeanette's and then another one of Bethany's, and we might wrap up here. If you still have questions, feel free to answer them. And then Chrisma, if you wouldn't mind, between the two of us, like we'll just go through these maybe after and answer some, or I've told people to feel free to message me as well. Jeanette had a good one on here that said, how do you get a shy child to talk to other children?
Ooh. Well, play therapy, I don't know if that's really what it's called, but playing is one great way to get them to start talking. Sometimes when we have students who are in crisis with another student, if we put them at a table and we have a toy in the middle, like a magnetic fidget toy that they can both be playing together, then that kind of forces them to start some conversation. Obviously, if they're going to like punch each other across the table, you shouldn't do that. But if they can be at a table and you can have them converse, I would start with that. The other thing you could do is you could give them a buddy. A buddy friend would be someone in their classroom who is social and who would be willing to kind of take that student under their wing and say, hey, why don't you come do this with me? Or, hey, do you want to come play? And getting them to be more confident in their own skin. And they're going to see that other student being social, and they're going to want to take and be more social because they see that modeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that reminds me, I think, I don't know when it became kind of like a little bit of a craze, like a couple years ago, where they had like spots on the playground where if a child felt like they were left out or they wanted a friend, they would sit on that bench or in that square. And then they had like students that they had already kind of encouraged to, if you see somebody in the square, the more social ones, be like, go see if you can invite them in or go talk to them. And I saw a really great things come out of some of those, and it really created some new friendships and gave those kids a space to do that. So yeah, that's what that reminded me of. But thank you for that suggestion. Thank you for that question, Jeanette. She asked a lot of them. Kathleen says she was the outgoing buddy, and Kathleen is my mother-in-law, and if you met my 9-year-old, you would say that she is definitely that outgoing buddy. She's the one who takes everybody under her wing. It was funny that you said those good phone calls, because I've gotten a few before where it's been, she really helped somebody. During distance learning, I had to go to work for some of the sessions, and my oldest was helping my youngest, and her teacher had called me and said, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that her big brother was a super big help during our session today. She was struggling with the technology and he was helping her out. And I just thought you should know that." So again, don't be scared to like talk to the teachers. And Melissa says, same, she had to be told to stop talking.
We have those students.
I think we all know that I may have been one of those students. Okay, so we'll do this is the last one that we're gonna do live, but I encourage you to ask them as well. Again, if you are on the replay and stuff too, we will try to get to them. There's been some great questions today, so thank you everybody. Bethany asked again, what other resources locally can families look into help with at-home teaching? And I know you gave me some over in the email, so I can put some of those up as well. But what are some that you found are really good? I know Prodigy was a good one.
Yeah, Prodigy is a really good one. Raz Kids is one that I like to use also, that sets kids at their you can put in a specific reading level for the student, and then it will actually there's fiction and nonfiction, and they can read it, they can have it read to them, and then as they're reading, they take quizzes on what they're reading, and it will like grow their score, and it will push them into higher levels. And it's also really engaging, which is nice. Scholastic, I see someone just put Scholastic up there. That's another really good one. Okay. abcia.com is free, and you can go to a specific grade level. So if you have a 4th grader, you can go to the 4th grader, read for reading and for writing and for all of that. What I will say about if you're homeschooling, if you're home, teaching, like some parents have chosen virtual, what you should do, and you should be hearing from your district on what platform they're using. My district is going to be using Edmentum. I don't know anything about that. I didn't go to school to learn how to virtually teach. But in my mind and what I've heard about what it is so far is it will start them out, and they will have so many assignments that they will need to get done. They'll have reading to do, they'll have math to do, whatever the case is, and they'll need to take and get those assignments done and get them turned in. So if you have questions about what that would look like, I would figure out what program your district is doing, and then go and Google that and see if you can figure anything else out that you might need to know.
Okay.
One more thing too, while I'm thinking about that, on in Google, if you need manipulatives, students that learn better with like blocks or cubes or money or whatever, there is an extension in Google that you can actually add that will give them like digital. It'll be a digital manipulative. So if you don't have, if you can't find 15 pennies because they need to add up, 15 cents or something, it has, you can add that extension on your Chromebook or your computer, and then they can just click on that to figure out their math problems also.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I wanted to say April says, hi, Aunt Chrisma, by the way.
Yes. She's also she's more like a sister. We grew up together.
Aw. Well, I wanted to make sure that I said thank you very much. We've just been firing. I mean, literally, we got right. I don't think we were a few minutes in before we got a whole list of questions. So thank you to everybody watching and engaging tonight. It's amazing. To have so much support and encouragement, and to be able to answer these questions and get these answers. Chrisma, thank you so much. I seriously, it's been great getting to know you and getting these great answers and all of these resources. I want to make sure to remind everybody that I do have these resources and everything. I will put in I will put in the links to right now I have a survey going on. I think it's in the description of this too. I have a survey and sign up for my email list where I give the replays, and then I actually give timestamps for some of these questions. So if you ask me these outside of the time, that you can go straight to those questions if you want to go back to them. And then a list of all the resources that were here and new ones, and then some PDFs too. I also am going to be putting some inside of the group that is Work Like a Mother. And I want to say too, I am going to be having some changes going on because things have been growing and building, which has just been amazing. So you might see a little bit of changes into where to get all this stuff. I'm going to try and streamline it so you can get all of the resources and replays in one spot on my page, Wild Jessie. And I want to talk about the contest for this week because let's face it, school is starting and we all need stuff.
Yeah.
So I am going to do two $25 MEIJER gift cards. So two $25 MEIJER gift cards. And all you have to do is like this post and share it on your page. Okay. And so you can share it. Make sure you do it publicly. Please, please, please. Every single time somebody doesn't do it publicly and then I can't put them in. And this is a good one. I've got two of those $25 MEIJER gift cards to give away. And all you have to do is just share this public, and then I'll see that, and then I'll put you in the contest. And then on Sunday at 4 is when I usually end it. So usually sometime between 4 and 5, I'll go ahead and I'll put it on. So please, please share it. And I would love to give these away because I'm super excited about it. I know a lot of us can use it. And if anybody has any other resources, please feel free to put those in the comments. And if you have questions, please make sure to put those in the comments. If you are nervous about doing it on the actual event, you can go ahead and you can message me personally. You can email me, which is Jessie@wildjessie.com. You can literally, there's so many ways to get a hold of me. And so again, thank you so much, Chrisma.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the people who were on tonight and were able to participate and engage. We couldn't do this without you. And I just want to make sure to say, remember, when you are doing it all, you do not have to do it all alone. Times are stressful and things are hard. People are uncertain and there's a lot going on. So make sure whether you phone a friend, phone a family member, find a group, call a number. Some of the last lives that I have had some great support phone numbers as well. But if you need them, again, message me and I will get them to you. Thank you so much, guys, for spending your Thursday night with me. I am a mom on a mission, and it's a mother of a mission. And I want to thank you for joining me. All right, you guys have a great night. Okay. Bye. Thank you, Chrisma.
Yep. See you later.